Okay.
To march or not to march, that is the question. Nick in Elstree, what is the answer? Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me on. I'm obviously disgusted at what happened yesterday, and my thoughts go out to everyone who's been affected.
Yep.
I'm delighted to hear the political consensus about the fact that these protests, you should be allowed to protest.
Of course.
Not a problem at all. But you also need to be empathetic and understanding of the gravity of what's happened.
Yep.
What happened last night I was breaking the fast at family, and I was showing photos of Free Palestine and Palestinian supporters in Liverpool Street celebrating.
Yeah.
And apparently that was outside Downing Street. I mean, how abhorrent and how disrespectful, distasteful. I mean, if you're going to be, if you're going to be trying to protest in a way that is supposed to be empathetic to your supporters, how can you do it in such a disgusting way?
You can't. And it's outrageous.
But the Met Police have called upon them to pause it, not to do it. And there are two reasons for this. One has just been articulated by the Home Secretary, which is a question of sensitivity, and the other is a question of logistics, given that the Prime Minister has quite correctly called for increased security by the police at synagogues in this country in case of copycat attacks or further threats. The amount of police officers present on the streets of London, 2,500 at comparable events, becomes operationally significant. So I don't fully get the wisdom of calling off a protest that is not anti-Semitic in order to show that the country cares about anti-Semitism. And I often mock other people for letting their feelings overcome their reasoning. But it's just the right thing to do, isn't it? Tomorrow? Just tomorrow.
My shorthand is the protests. It's not just the protests, and it certainly isn't everybody on those protests. But what I have seen in too many of the pro-Palestinian groupings and responses is, and by the way, not all Jewish response or Israeli response has been appropriate or correct either, or temperate either. That's important to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm focusing on the safety of Jews in this conversation, and of British Jews in this conversation. And I just think what I've seen is a lot of almost juvenile, teenage foot stamping type of behaviour. So the people who are in the Liverpool Street Station or up in Waverley Station in Edinburgh yesterday, and out they come for their big jamboree, they get their big flags out, they go out shouting anti-Israel slogans again and getting in the way of people going about their business, and they love it, they love their chants, they love to shout free, free Palestine, they love to shout from the river to the sea, they love to shout globalise the intifada, they love to wear their keffiyeh, they love to cover their faces, and I just think, grow up. Grow up. They act as though they're the only people who care about the Gazans. And what I would say to them, and I'm going to talk more about this at 3 and invite calls from people who are very actively pro-Palestine, is where have you been in the last week and a half or week since we've had the ceasefire deal put on the table?
Sheila, it's ignorance.
Where have you been telling me what you think
ignorance.
of it?
It's ignorance. There might not be anti-Semites. I'm not saying they're all anti-Semites, but it's ignorance. And like you say, it's childish. It's childish. Absolutely ridiculously childish.
But it's literally like shouting in someone's face when they say, "Can I have a conversation?"
I'm Jewish. I am a pro-Palestinian campaigner and have been for many years. And I'm heavily involved in demonstrations locally and in the centre of Manchester, and have been, well, for more than the last 2 years, but particularly since then.
Right.
And we have a weekly demonstration on a Friday outside our MP's office.
Right.
And we have had discussions this morning about whether we go ahead. And we've decided we will. However, it is going to be a silent demonstration. So no chanting, no encouraging of cars and vehicles to beep in support and so on. And we hold placards with dead children on them from Gaza. And it is horrific. And yesterday, there were at least 30 more deaths in Gaza.
The figure I've got is 53.
Thank you. And, we can't ignore that. I'm horrified by what happened yesterday, and I really feel it. I grew up near that synagogue, and I know people now. I have friends who went to many events there, celebrations, funerals, weddings, bar mitzvahs, everything. It's horrific, and I was so glad that my daughter was visiting last night because it's so upsetting. But I feel, as a Jew, that I have to protest because this is not what we're supposed to be about. Not killing people, not othering people. And I just feel so strongly that, we have to keep protesting the genocide, and we do it in a respectful way. And it doesn't mean we condemn, we support what's happened, of course. But one of the main things that is a problem, and we've said this all along, and when I say we, we Jewish pro-Palestinians, and I found a real community in this group.
Right. Forgive me for interrupting. I just want to clarify one thing. Is that the driving force of the whole group, or is that just a description of you, a member of the group?
We're a large group. Our local dispute group is at least 140 people. Right. But there are a significant number of us are Jewish.
Okay.
And we have banners, Jewish Action for Palestine, Jews Against Gaza Genocide, and so on. And I regularly march with those banners through Manchester. And the only anti-Semitism I've ever encountered has been from Zionists. Who've called me terrible names and told me I'm not a proper Jew and all sorts of things.
These protests that are due to take place, we saw them last night, are they, to your mind, un-British?
Yeah, they are un-British, Tom. At this point, what you would hope is that people would recognise what's taken place, which is a terrorist attack on their neighbours, in their community, and they should try to, everyone, whatever their feelings about international affairs, should try to rally together to support this country, their neighbours, against that sort of attack. And if I may, the significant thing really about tomorrow's proposed march is that it's in favour of supporting Palestine Action. Palestine Action is a proscribed group, so it's kind of layers these difficulties on the police who've got to police this incident, which is a prescribed group trying to protest. So all the police who could be out supporting people in synagogues, at events where they think there may be dangers following up on this, are going to have to be in this march. It feels wrong, feels indulgent, feels like now is a time to perhaps just put our swords and our voices down for a while to try and reflect and support our neighbours.
To what extent have these marches, to some extent, always been un-British?
No, I don't think that. I think that generally the ability and the freedom of speech and the rights that we have to march are something that I'm very proud of in this country. And generally the police can support us in doing those and allowing that essential liberty, whether you like it or not, the people marching or not, to take place. But now is a completely different circumstance. This terrible murderous attack has taken place. The community is still coming together about it. Imagine if your neighbour had just had a terrible event like this. Would you go out and protest or party? No, you wouldn't. You try and support that person next to you by showing respect.
I'll put the argument to you, Amber, but I think I'm in agreement with you, but let's test the argument anyway. The argument is there is a, quotes, genocide, end quotes, happening in the Middle East. That is of huge significance. I want to go and protest against it to try and put pressure on the Israeli government to stop doing it, or the British government to get the Israeli government to stop doing it. Don't take that right away from me.
And I hear that argument. And normally, if this event hadn't just taken place, I would say, I am proud that this country allows you to do that. But under these specific circumstances, to the person making that argument, I would say, now is not the time to do that. You will be able to do that again in the future. We are not taking it away permanently, but just reflect for a minute on the human suffering of your neighbour and think again about this.